Hi all, I'm about to start reading our new class novel called Wonder. Why do I read it and put it online? Well, one, you might want to go back, you might have zoned out, and you want to go back and listen to it in your own time. So you can access this from home. Second thing is you might be away. Maybe you're sick but not too sick and you can watch it, or you catch up. So that's two reasons. One nice thing is for me, it means that I can look at how you're reacting to the story rather than worrying about reading it. I can actually look around and watch you, and also I can enjoy the story again. This book is called Wonder, and it's a very, very powerful story that I'm reading to you, and it's going to last a number of weeks. I have a couple of questions for you to think about before we start, and then at the end I will probably ask you to write them in your reader's notebook. Write your responses to those questions. They're never really right or wrong answers. They're mainly your thoughts. They make you think. So there are 4 characters at the start of the story, and they're family members. So one of the things I want you to think about is to focus on who are the family members and how do they help each other, and what are their personalities perhaps. The next question is, how does August, the main character, describe himself at the beginning of this story, and why? How does he describe himself and why? You can think about who are the main characters, how does August describe himself and why? What happens on Halloween to upset August, and how does he react? So think about that, his reaction on Halloween, and why is he upset? And how did August feel about starting school in chapter 1? And why did he feel that? Okay, I'll ask you those questions again, but you might want to try and remember some of those and focus on them as I'm reading. Get comfortable. Chapter 1, Ordinary. I know I'm not an ordinary 10-year-old. I mean, sure, I do ordinary things. I eat ice cream, I ride my bike, I play ball, and I even have an Xbox. Stuff like that makes me ordinary, I guess. And I feel ordinary inside, but I know ordinary kids don't make other ordinary kids run away screaming in playgrounds. I know ordinary kids don't get stared at wherever they go. If I found a magic lamp and I could have one wish, I would wish that I had a normal face that no one noticed at all. I would wish that I could walk down the street without people seeing me and doing that look away thing. Here's what I think. The only reason I'm not ordinary is no one else sees me that way. But I'm kind of used to it now, how I look. I know how to pretend I don't see the faces that people make. We've all gotten pretty good at that sort of thing, me, Mum, Dad, and Via. Actually, I take that back. Via's not good at it at all. She can get really annoyed when people do something rude. Like, for instance, one time in the playground, some older boys started making noises. I didn't even know what the noises were exactly because I didn't hear them myself. But Via heard, and she just started yelling at the kids. That's the way she is. I'm not that way. Via doesn't see me as ordinary. She says she does, but if I were ordinary, she wouldn't feel like she needs to protect me as much. And Mum and Dad don't see me as ordinary either. They see me as extraordinary. I think the only person in the world who realizes I'm ordinary is me. My name's August, by the way. I won't describe what I look like. Whatever you're thinking, it's possibly worse. Chapter 2, Why I Didn't Go to School. Next week I start 5th grade. Since I've never been to a real school before, I'm pretty much totally and completely petrified. People think I haven't gone to school because of the way I look, but that's not actually it. It's because of all the surgeries I had. 27 surgeries since I was born. The bigger ones happened before I was even 4 years old, so I don't really remember those. But I've had 2 or 3 surgeries every year since then. Some big, some small. And because that, because I am little for my age and I have some other medical mysteries that doctors can never figure out, I used to get sick a lot. And that's why my parents decided it was better if I didn't go to school. I'm much, much stronger now, though. The last surgery I had was 8 months ago, and I probably won't have to have any more for a couple of years now. Mum homeschools me. She used to be a children's book illustrator. She draws really good fairies and mermaids. Her boy stuff isn't so hot, though. She once tried to draw me Darth Vader, but it ended up looking like some mushroom-shaped robot. Now, if you don't know who Darth Vader is, someone might be able to tell you in the class. I haven't seen her draw anything in a long time. I think she's too busy taking care of me and Via. I can't say I always wanted to go to school because that wouldn't be exactly true. What I wanted was to go to school, but only if I could be like all the other kids that go to school. I have lots of friends and hang out after school and stuff like that. I have a few really good friends. Christopher, he's my best friend, followed by Zachary and Alex. We have known each other since we were all babies. And since they've always known me the way I am, they're used to me. When we were little, we used to have play dates all the time. But then Christopher moved to Bridgeport in Connecticut, not near me. That's more than an hour away from where I live in North River Heights, which is at the top tip of Manhattan, New York. And Zachary and Alex started going to school. What's funny, even though Christopher's the one who moved away, I actually see him more now than I see Zachary and Alex. They have all these new friends now. And if we bump into each other on the street, they'll be nice to me. And they'll say hello, though. They always say hello. I have other friends too, but not as good as Christopher, Zachary, and Alex. For instance, Alex and Zach always invited me to their birthday parties when we were little, but Joel and Emma and Gabe, they never do. Emma invited me once, but I haven't seen her for a long time. And of course, I always go to Christopher's birthday. Maybe I'm making too big a deal about birthday parties. Sometimes we do make big deals about birthday parties and we forget that some birthday parties your parents only let you invite 2 or 3 people, or starts getting tricky, those organising birthday parties. Anyway, back to chapter 3, how I came to life. I like when Mum tells this story because it makes me laugh so much. It's not funny in the way a joke is funny, but when Mum tells it, Via and I, that we start cracking up. That means laughing really hard. So, when I was in my mum's stomach, no one had any idea I would come out looking the way I do. Mum had had Via 4 years before, which means Via's his older sister by 4 years. And that had been such a walk in the park, Mum's expression, that there was no reason to run any special tests. About 2 months before I was born, the doctors realised that there was something wrong with my face, but they didn't think it was going to be bad. They told Mum and Dad I had a cleft palate. I can show you a picture of that later. And some other stuff going on. They called it small anomalies, so just small differences, which we all have. There were 2 nurses in the delivery room the night I was born. One was very nice and very sweet, and the other one, Mum said, did not seem nice at all or sweet. She had big arms, and here comes the funny part. She kept farting. Like she'd bring Mum ice chips to chew on, and then Mum says it was unbelievable because the nurse even never said, "Excuse me." Meanwhile, Mum's regular doctor wasn't on duty that night, so Mum got stuck with this cranky kid doctor. I mean, just a young doctor. She and Dad nicknamed Doogie after some old TV show or something. They didn't actually call him that to his face. But Mum said that even though everyone in the room was kind and grumpy, Dad kept making her laugh all night long. But when I came out of Mum's stomach, everyone in the room went quiet. Mum didn't even get a chance to look at me because the nice nurse immediately rushed me, little baby me, out of the room. Dad was in such a hurry to follow her that he dropped the video camera, which broke into a million pieces. And then Mum got very upset and tried to get out of bed to see where they were going. but the farting nurse put very big arms around Mum to keep her down on the bed. They were practically fighting because Mum was hysterical and farting nurse kept yelling at her to stay calm, and then they both started screaming for the doctor. But guess what? The doctor, had fainted right there on the floor. So when the nurse saw he had fainted, she started pushing him with her foot to get him to wake up, yelling the whole time, "What kind of doctor are you? What kind of doctor? Get up, get up." And then all of a sudden, she let out the biggest, loudest, smelliest fart in the history of farts. Mum thinks it was actually that finally woke up the doctor. Anyway, when Mum tells the story, she acts out all the parts, including the nurse, the noises. And it's so funny. Mum says that nurse turned out to be actually a really nice lady. We often prejudge people, don't we? She stayed with Mum the whole time, didn't leave her side, even after Dad came back and the doctors told him how sick baby me, was. Mum remembers exactly what the nurse whispered in the air when the doctor told her, "I probably won't live through the night. Everyone born of God overcometh the world." So everyone born with God eventually dies. So he's saying, "I'm really sorry, but your baby's probably going to die." Whoa, that's huge. And the next day, after I had lived through the night, and it was that nurse who held Mum's hand when they brought me in to meet me for the first time. Mum says by then they had told her all about me, and she had been preparing herself for seeing me. But she says that when she looked down at my tiny, mushed up face for the first time, all she could see was how pretty my eyes were. We should always do that. Look for the good in people. Mum is beautiful, by the way. Dad is handsome. Via is pretty, in case you're wondering. So now you think, how does he describe himself? Who are his family members? Christopher's house. Chapter 3, although in this book they don't name the chapters, they don't write chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3. Christopher's house. I was really bummed when Christopher moved away 3 years ago. We were both around 7 then, and we used to spend hours playing with our Star Wars action figures. You would have heard about Darth Vader before. And dueling with our lightsabers. I miss that. Last spring, we drove over to Christopher's house in Bridgeport. Me and Christopher were looking for snacks in the kitchen, and I heard Mum talking to Lisa, Christopher's mum, about me going to school in the fall. I'd never heard her mention school before. "What are you talking about?" I said. Mum looked surprised. She hadn't meant for me to hear that. "You should tell him what we've been thinking, Isabel," Dad said, and he was on the other side of the living room talking to Christopher's dad. "We should talk about this later," said Mum. "No, I want to know what you're talking about," I said. "Don't you think you're ready for school, August?" Mum said. "No," I said, I don't either," said Dad. "Then that's it, case closed," I shrugged, and I sat in her lap like I was a baby. "Just think you need to learn more than I can teach you as a homeschool teacher," said Mum. "I mean, come on, Augie, you know how bad I am at fractions." "What school?" I said, and I already felt like crying. "Beecher Prep, right by us." "Well, that's a great school, Augie," said Lisa, patting my knee. "Why not Via's school?" I said. "That's too big," Mum answered. "I don't think it would be a good fit for you. You don't have to go to the same school as your brothers and sisters. Schools are quite different. It's good to find one that suits you." "I don't want to," I said. I admitted I made my voice a little babyish. "I don't want to." That's what some children do when they get anxious. "I don't have to do anything you don't have to do anything you don't want to, Augie," Dad said, coming over and lifting me out of Mum's lap. He carried me over to sit on his lap on the other side of the sofa. "We won't make you do anything that you don't want to." "But," Mum said, "it would be good for him, Nate." "No, if he doesn't want to," answered Dad, looking at me. "Not if he's not ready." Oh, the parents are not sure. I guess, do you think Dad's nervous for Augie to start school? Because we've already discovered he looks different. And maybe Mum thinks a little school would be good because then everyone will get to know him and they'll get used to him and they'll look after him and care for him. I saw Mum look at Lisa, who reached over and squeezed my hand. You guys will figure this out, she said to Mum. You always have. Let's just talk about it later, said Mum, and I could tell she and Dad were going to get into a fight about this, and I wanted Dad to win the fight, though a part of me knew Mum was right, and the truth is she was really terrible at fractions. Next chapter, driving. It was a long drive home and I fell back asleep in the back seat, as I always do, my head in Via's lap like she was my pillow, a towel wrapped around the seatbelt so I wouldn't drool over her. Oh, that's interesting. A towel wrapped around the seatbelt so I wouldn't drool over her. Via fell asleep too, and Mum and Dad talked quietly about grown-up things I didn't care about. I don't know how long I was sleeping, but when I woke up, there was a full moon outside the car window. It was a purple night, and we were driving on a highway full of cars. And then I heard Mum and Dad talking about me. We can't keep protecting him, Mum whispered to Dad, who was driving. We can't just pretend he's going to wake up tomorrow and there isn't going to be his reality looking like that, because it is Nate. And we have to help him learn to deal with looking like that. We can't avoid situations that, well, hang on, so sending him off to middle school like a lamb to the slaughter. We'll discuss that phrase, a lamb to the slaughter, Dad answered angrily. That she didn't even finish the sentence because he saw me in the mirror looking up. What's a lamb to the slaughter? I asked sleepily. Go back to sleep, Augie, said Dad. Everyone will stare at me at school, I said, suddenly crying. Honey, said Mum, and she turned around from the front seat of the car and she put her hand on my hand. You know if you don't want to do this, you don't have to. But we spoke to the principal there and told him about you, and he really wants you to meet you. What did you tell him about me? How funny you are, how kind and smart you are. And when I told him you read Dragon Rider when you were 6, he was like, whoa, I have to meet this kid. Did you tell him anything else? I said. Mum smiled at me. Her smile kind of hugged me from the back seat of the car. Yep, I told him all about your surgeries. And I told him how brave you are. So he knows what I look like? I asked. Well, we brought pictures from last summer. We showed him pictures of the whole family. And that great shot of you holding that flounder, the fish, on the boat. You were there too? I have to admit I felt a little disappointed that Dad was also part of this. We both talked to him, yes, said Dad. He's a really nice man. You'd like him, said Mum. Suddenly I felt like they were both on the same side now. Wait, so when did you meet him? He took us on a tour of the school last year. Last year? So you've been thinking of this for a whole year and you haven't told me? We didn't know if you'd get in, Augie. It's very hard school to get into and there's lots of admission process. I didn't see the point in telling you and having you all worked up unnecessarily to discover that they didn't accept you and give you a place at the school. But you're right, Augie. We probably should have told you last month when you got in. In hindsight, said Mum, yeah, I guess. Did that lady who came to the house that time have something to do with this, the one that gave me all the tests? Yeah, actually, yeah. You told me it was an IQ test. I know, well, it was a white lie. It was a test you need to take to get into the school. And you did very well, by the way. So you lied. Yeah, a white lie. Yeah, I guess, sorry, she said, trying to smile. But when I didn't smile back, she turned around in her seat, remember they're in the car, and faced forward. Well, what's a lamb to the slaughter, I asked. Mum sighed and gave Dad a look. I shouldn't have said that, said Dad. It's not true. Here's the thing. Mum and I love you so much we want to protect you in any way we can. It's just sometimes we want to do it in different ways. I don't want to go to school. It'll be good for you, said Augie, said Mum. Maybe I'll go next year. And I looked out the window. This year it'd be better, Augie, said Mum. You know why? Because you'll be going into 5th grade, and that's the first year of middle school for everyone. You won't be the only new kid in the class. Well, I'll be the only new kid who looks like me. I'm not going to say it won't be a challenge for you because you know better than that. It'll be good for you, Augie. You'll make lots of friends and you'll learn things you'd never learn with me. When we took a tour, you know, they had a science lab and a little baby chick that was just hatching out of an egg. It was so cute. Augie, it actually kind of reminded me of you when you were a little baby with all those big brown eyes of yours. I usually love when they talk about when I was a baby. Sometimes I want to curl up in a tiny ball and let them hug me and kiss me. I miss being a baby, not knowing stuff. But I wasn't in the mood for that now. I don't want to go. Okay, how about this? At least you meet Mr. Tushman before making up your mind. Mr. Tushman, I said. He's the principal, answered Mum. Mr. Tushman. Do you guys know what a tush is? Your tushy, your bottom. Mr. Tushman. I know, right, Dad, answered, smiling and looking at me in the mirror. Can you believe that name, Augie? I mean, who on earth would ever agree to have a name like Mr. Tushman? I smiled, even though I didn't want to let them know I was smiling. Dad was the one person in the world who could make me laugh no matter how much I didn't want to laugh. Dad always made everyone laugh. Augie, you know, you should go to that school just so you can hear his name said out on the loudspeaker, Dad said excitedly. So they're trying to make a really positive situation here. It's a nice thing to do. If something seems a bit like someone's upset or something, try and keep it positive. See if it distracts them and changes their mind. Augie, you should go to that school so you can hear his name over the loudspeaker. Can you imagine how funny it would be? Hello, hello, paging Mr. Tushman. And he was using a fake high old lady voice. Hi, Mr. Tushman. I see you're running a little behind today. Did you get rear-ended in your car today? Oh, what a bum rap. I started laughing, not because I thought he was being funny, but because I wasn't in the mood to stay mad anymore. What could be worse, though, Dad continued in his normal voice. Mum and I had a professor in college called Miss Butt. Mum was laughing now. Is that for real? I said. Roberta Butt. Bobby Butt. She had huge cheeks. There's your butt cheeks. Nate, said Mum. What? She had big cheeks, that's all I'm saying. Mum laughed and shook her head. Hey, I know, said Dad excitedly. Let's fix them up on a blind date. Can you imagine Miss Butt and Mr. Tushman? Mr. Tushman, here's Miss Butt. They could get married and have a bunch of little tushies. Poor Mr. Tushman, answered Mum. Augie hasn't even met the man yet. Who's Mr. Tushman? Said Via groggily. She'd just woken up. Augie said. I said, he's the principal of my new school. So let's think. How does Augie describe himself and why? Maybe what he looks like, but also his personality. Maybe how does his mum describe him? We haven't got to the Halloween bit yet, so you can't do that. How did August feel about starting school at the beginning? So far, how does he feel about starting school? And who are August's family members? I hope you're enjoying it so far.